My name is Melanie Murphy, and I love asking people questions that are difficult to answer. Something I've been fascinated by recently is how much social media has blown up over the past 20 years. And let's be honest, 20 years is a drop in the ocean of the timeline of humanity, and yet it's completely changed our lives. I create online content for a living, mostly alone, as well as writing books, the loneliest of jobs. And while I feel that I spend plenty of time with real-life human beings, my average daily screen time leaves much to be desired.
So how many hours on average do you spend on your screen per day?
4 hours a day, Lucy. Over 4 hours. That is like 2 movies I could be watching a day. I could be running a whole marathon every day.
A lot of time spent with family and friends.
Ever since I graduated, I've been partial to that mental nourishment that comes with having different voices contribute to important conversations. And the conversation around social media and loneliness couldn't be more significant right now. What with study after study and headline after headline pointing to higher rates of social isolation and depression in those who replace most of their face-to-face encounters with clicks. All the while, 81% of teenagers feel that social media has a positive effect on their lives, and they credit it for helping them to build stronger friendships. Almost half of the people on this planet use social media every day for hours, and as humans, time is our most valuable resource. So are all these things like Twitter and Instagram and Facebook detrimental to our social lives, our well-being? Here is some food for thought.
Face-to-face interaction is like so important. I just feel you get a good read of someone when you're like looking at them, looking at their expressions, the way they say something. Like you can't compare that to like a text message or anything like that.
I've met people and I'm friends with people and I've gone on dates with people I would never have met only for social media.
You know, it is intense and it is overwhelming to go online and go on social media and see that 300 of the people that you follow are active and they're accessible to talk to interact with, but they're not really there.
Social media was created to be social with people, and I try to always remember that.
Ironically, even though it's supposed to make us feel more connected, can actually enhance feelings of loneliness.
I think social media can be really beneficial to people who are experiencing something that can be really isolating, like going through an illness.
The internet has been such a bridge for me, such a lifeline.
I think social media makes me less lonely, definitely.
I have to put my phone on Do Not Disturb all the time because my brain can't handle it.
If children had phones in schools, they wouldn't be looking up from the phone. They would be texting each other through the phone.
I would say that like 80% of my friendship circle has come from social media.
It would not surprise me if a lot of young people growing up nowadays who only know social media are terrified of conversation.
But from their point of view, they're looking at people like us and going, wow, I want to be like them. They have loads of friends. And meanwhile, I'm sitting at home with my dad with his cancer and no one's there.
Sometimes you'll like chat a lot online and you see that person in person and it's really awkward and you don't know why, and it's just like the chemistry's gone.
Before social media, your social life was your immediate friends group, your work groups, and arranging to go out with them was, you know, if you were going to meet someone, say you met a girl in the pub and you were trying to arrange a date. She lived in South Dublin, you lived in North Dublin. If you got her number, you would probably ring from a public phone box to confirm the date and time, and then you'd be meeting them the following Saturday under a clock on O'Connell Street. With the advent of social media, you've got your first group. I imagine everyone has set up is their family connections, where you can connect with people you would not normally connect with, and it's family who have gone abroad. Historically, before the internet, you would probably never hear from them again on some occasions. So you get people pass jokes, comments, statuses, or whatever the children are doing.
I moved home from living in Scotland for 5 years because social media just couldn't cut it for me. I needed to be around people physically, not just see them on social media and see what they're doing, to get the snippets of their lives rather than just spending time with these people. I needed to have the actual interaction with people rather than reading a text. And they were always just posting pictures and things like that. So at different points when I was over there, it either helped me feel connected to them, but also made me feel a bit lonely as well. So at different points I'd be like, oh, it's so good to see that everyone's having a good time. But then other times I'd be like, I know I really just want to be there with them. It was really tough.
I follow, I think, 700 people on Instagram, and I know what 300 of them have for breakfast every morning. I know what time they go to sleep at. I know how they're feeling. I feel connected to these people because I know these personal things that I would only know if I lived with them or if I was friends with them, but I'm not. I've never met this person, and it is kind of a lonely feeling to almost believe that you know someone when you've never even had a personal conversation with. When I'm on Instagram and I'm interacting with people and I then come away from it, I feel less connected to people. For example, like if you put up something that's, you know, like you're quite upset about and you're kind of looking for support, you know, do I feel disconnected from people because it's not them that's saying it to me, but it's this device? Or do I feel connected because I can on hand talk to them so easy? It is a big commitment, or it can be a lot of pressure to be there for someone, especially if you're not all there yourself or you have stuff going on. So to just send a text is a lot easier on you.
When shit hits the fan, things are tough, things are shit. That's when you start to realise who your real friends are. I started Vine, 3 years of Vining, made loads of friends. Vine died, and then my dad got cancer, and I spent all of my time taking care of my dad after that, and then suddenly every single person that I thought I was friends with just disappeared. I think social media is almost like a poison in the sense that it can make you feel like you have lots of friends, and it makes you feel like you have a big social life. And then when real life happens, someone passes away, somebody gets ill, you're depressed, there really isn't. The social media carries on, and none of those people are there for you, despite the fact that the numbers are all there, the followers are all there, the comments are all rolling in. Haha, this is so funny, you're the best creator ever. You're just sitting there at home, like flicking through your phone. Your dad's ill. Like, it's so weird. It's almost like an episode of Black Mirror.
Social media has definitely been a double-edged sword for me in terms of improving my anxiety and also triggering it again. I think when I first started to talk about my experience with mental health, social media was an incredible tool for me to share and realise that I wasn't on my own, because I think such a characteristic of anxiety is that you think you're the only person going through it. So by putting something out there, whether it was Facebook or Instagram, instantly I could realise that there was so many people who were going through the exact same thing.
I don't know, I don't like to talk about my emotions in person very much. I would go to Facebook Messenger and message my very close friends, or go to text and text my friends. I wouldn't want to be in person with them while discussing that thing that was bothering me. So in a way, it kind of aids my ability to talk to them.
When it's just text and an image or maybe a couple of emojis, you're losing out on the tone of voice, the body language, and all of the other elements that go into communication that help you actually convey a message or receive a message.
I love face-to-face interaction. I'm all about it. I will talk to someone and give them my undivided attention. I love talking to people face-to-face. Just sort of quite a gestury kind of person. Tone and sarcasm and all that kind of thing is very much, they're sort of like all my kind of idiosyncrasies, are how I get my points across. And there's none of that on social media through text and that. It's all very cold.
When you're on social media, you're behind a screen, you're behind several filters or whatever apps you're using, you're curating it, you're putting up the best bits if you want to, and you're taking your time to edit your caption and think about what you want to put out there.
I've had people say to me that they're annoyed at how long it takes me to respond to messages.
I think I'm one of the few people that doesn't get very offended when I'm left on read, because I feel like I can empathise with why someone would want to leave me on read a lot of the time, and it's not personal, it's about their own experience and not about me.
That gives me anxiety of going, oh, are they waiting for me to reply to the message, but I'm doing this, but should I be replying to them? And it just starts spiralling in my head, so instead I just leave it.
I have a very different experience of social media, I think, to a lot of other people, because I have a chronic illness and a disability that means I can't really leave the house very much. And I spend a lot of time I guess I would feel incredibly alone if I didn't have the internet. I didn't have a way to connect with other people. I had a lumbar puncture where they accidentally pierced my spinal fluid sac too many times, and my spinal fluid bled out and into my body. So for 2 years, while my spinal fluid grew back, essentially, I had to be in a dark room by myself. I couldn't have light, touch, sound. I couldn't have anyone near me because it was such an excruciating pain. And for those 2 years, I felt incredibly alone. I've thought, am I the only person here who's like this, who's in this situation? And now I get to make videos that I know touch the people who are in that place still. And that's the most beautiful thing for me.
Last year I had a really horrific medical scare. I was in hospital for a month with a flare-up of my ulcerative colitis, and I had emergency surgery. And now I have a stoma, which is basically like a bag of poo. And I remember being in hospital after my surgery, and one of the first things I did was I was on YouTube, I was on Twitter, on Instagram, trying to find other young women in the same situation as me. And I found these amazing vloggers and bloggers and just like people on social media who were talking about it, who had been through what I was currently going through, and they were out the other end, living their life, thriving. And that was so comforting to me to just be right, where are my women in their 20s and 30s with stoma bags?
I've made so many friends from it. I've connected with other influencers or YouTubers, whatever it is. We've met boyfriends online. So it's created a whole other dimension of socializing.
I just don't really see a difference between online friend and real life friend. It's the same. And I'm literally here in Ireland because I'm going to the birthday party of a friend I met online, but now we're real life friends.
Face-to-face interaction is incredibly important for me to feel connected to someone. I think because one of my love languages is quality time and physical touch. So I do think that social media is very useful, but it doesn't replace for me physical interaction and actually meeting someone and being able to touch them. Because I'm a big squeezing shoulder or hugs kind of person, so yeah, you can't replace that. I've met so many people and connected with so many people that I wouldn't have before, especially creatives of color and black writers and black performers. It's just really amazing to have that community of creatives.
Social media has created something that could make people very lonely because people are putting so much emphasis into their online life that if that goes tomorrow, what do you have left? I think we forget that the impact of how we use social media can affect other people in real life. I don't even mean about online connections. When I go home, my parents aren't going to be around forever. And they're there trying to communicate with me, trying to catch up, and I'm yeah, answering them, and I'm not giving them that attention. You're never going to get that time back. So social media has done a lot for me in terms of creating communities. If I look back in 20 years' time and social media's gone, that's a really good thing that I left behind and created a conversation around. When I go to meet up my hiking group, I promote it all online. I get there and I go, everyone get off their phones.
I don't really use it to stay in touch with people because it forces you to stay in touch with everybody, and you don't necessarily need everybody in your life.
It's so tempting to vent your feelings or share what you're going through online. Literally this morning, I was so stressed with various things that are going on that I posted a Instagram story saying, everything will be fine, just carry on, everything's fine, I'm fine. I was stressed, and I'm sharing that I'm there. And then I got a message from my friend, and on reading the message being are you okay, what's going on? I was this isn't the place for that. This world is full of people, and sometimes you feel like your interests are yours, and maybe you feel a bit outcast and no one gets it. But social media shows you that there are people around the world who do, and that's a wonderful thing. There are also those times when I'm sat there and I've got my phone out and I'm scrolling through Instagram or whatever, and I'm seeing people out at parties living their lives, or people in couples, and you'll sit there and you're oh, I notice a hole that I have in my life. Yeah.
So the children I was teaching were quite young. Their forms of social media that I found they were using was online gaming. And I found that some of the children who maybe wouldn't have had access to technology at home, they got a little bit left out then because they weren't as involved.
I have had a parent come to me before about Fortnite and say my child doesn't use it, they don't have it, and because of that they're being left out of conversations.
It really impacted them. It was a really important part of their day.
Sometimes when I heard a conversation, why weren't you in the group chat, I do see the child, they give a reason, but they're kind of go a bit down in themselves then, they're not as chatty, so I'd have to go over and chat to them.
Be playing online with somebody who they've never actually met, but they're like, oh, this is my friend and that's my friend. It kind of gives a different definition to what they'd call a friend now, I think.
I think social media can benefit children that are shy in that they come into themselves online, in an online persona. They can make connections with peers in their class online. However, it might not always translate then into the classroom. If they're not able to express themselves in real life, they're not able to respond to that. They want to sit inside and be on a phone or a computer because that's what everyone else is doing.
Which is really worrying because it could give them a sense of really being involved in something, but then they could end up feeling quite isolated if these social media friends or online friends aren't actively present in their life.
I do think social media makes you feel lonelier. I find the times where I've gone off it and I go away on holiday and I'm doing loads of stuff, I feel great. When I'm hanging out with all my friends, I feel amazing. You spend a week alone with my laptop and just my social media. I'm not getting that connection. I need to hear someone, I need to see them. I think social media makes you feel lonelier because you're seeing everyone's highlight reel.
There are 3.4 billion active social media users, and on average, people have 7.6 social media accounts. It would appear to me that asking if social media makes you lonely is a little like asking if eating makes you gain weight. The answer is it can, of course, but not necessarily, and not in everyone, and not forever. It depends on how you use it and why, just as it depends on how much you eat and what. Social media use can be fine, wonderful even, in moderation. But as with any lifestyle loaded with processed foods, an excessive intake of social media could be bad for your mental health and for your quality of life. And just as people need education around nutrition, we need it badly around technology. It seems like social media makes us lonely when we expect it to replace our real social lives rather than to aid them, or when we allow it to take time away from relationships that make our lives meaningful.